Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your...
All right, what is up, Utes fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. Lanky Boy says, love the song. What's it called? It is called Ruthless. I think the guy's name is NoFX. It's like a copyright-free music YouTube will give you, and I liked it too. So, yeah, if you can find the guy, give him a follow. It's pretty good. And as you guys come to the video, please do make sure you guys like the video. Helps get it out to more Utes fans. Also, comment below if you guys are hyped about the UCLA game. Today's going to be a ton of fun, and it should be a great time. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. We put out Utah Utes content all the time. If you love Utah Utes football, this is the spot. That is all we talk about. I don't talk basketball, I don't talk baseball. I talk about Utah Utes football. That is about it. All right, and we have a special guest tonight, Dante Guardi. I think I said it right. I gave it my best there. But before I bring him on, I do want to tell you guys about something I'm really excited about. We're going to be doing a little giveaway here. So this is a Brant Kuithe signed autograph card right here, Brant Kuithe. And if you guys are big Brant Kuithe fans just like me, I'm sure you're excited to, kind of find out how you can get your hands on it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to get your hands on it. So to get the giveaway, what you're going to have to do is boom. So first you could go to Twitter. So if you go on Twitter, got to close that conversation. So if you go to Twitter, you'll see a Utah Utes Balling. So go to Utah Utes Balling. You're going to see a post. Oh, wow. Greg Hawkins with the $20 super chat. Hot damn, Greg. Come on now. Good job, dude. Thanks, Greg. If there's anything specific you want me to discuss, feel free to let me know. That is awesome. That is more than generous, man. Thank you so much. All right. And then if you guys want to get the Brant Kuithe autograph card, what you're going to have to do is go to @UtahUtesBalling on Twitter, and you're going to go down here. You're going to click the like button. You're going to hit the retweet button, and then you're going to go here. And you're going to comment this. You're going to comment best tight end in the country. That's the number one thing. If you guys want to be entered in, you got to comment best tight end in the country, because I feel like it's going to get a lot of likes and retweets. But if you comment best tight end in the country, it is going to let me know that you actually saw the video and that you guys are, doing it to actually get the card. The other option you're going to have, let me see if I can get my Instagram up here. I know not all of you guys are on Twitter, but a lot of you guys are. So if you are on Twitter, that's going to be your best way to enter. We already got a lot of people liking it. So very cool there. I'm excited to see you guys start commenting best tight end in the country, because that'll let us know, for sure that that's why you're there. Instagram, Utah Utes Balling. I don't know why it's not popping up here. Doesn't Instagram usually pop up? Okay. Instagram, Utah Utes Balling. Well, anyways, if you guys are on, what's it called? Instagram, make sure you guys go on Instagram, like the post and comment best tight end in the country. You could just use hashtag Kuithe card giveaway, and that'll pull up the post. I put it under that. So we're going to be going all throughout this week, all throughout the weekend. And then Monday, I'm going to announce who the winner is. So that should be a lot of fun. But outside of that, guys, we got a lot more important stuff to do. I am going to bring on our guest, Dante Guardi. Dante, thank you so much for joining us, man. If you guys are fans of the Locked On Utes podcast, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are, you probably heard him on there. I heard him on there a few times, and I really liked his insight, so I invited him on. Good to have you, man. How are you?
Doing great. Appreciate you for having me on. Just looking forward to the weekend, obviously. Going to be a fantastic matchup, great game. And I'm going to be out there, actually, so I'm super excited to do that.
Oh, man, lucky you. And you write for Ute Zone as well, is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, awesome. And Greg, I know you dropped that big super chat, man. That was awesome. If you have any specific topic you'd like us to discuss for a little while, I'd be more than happy to spend some time on it. That was really cool of you. All right. The next thing, guys, so let's start talking about the teams. I know Dante and I had a few things we want to discuss. Dante, is there anything you want to just get started with in the UCLA-Utah matchup?
Yeah, so obviously UCLA's got that big three on offense with Jake Bobo, DTR, Zach Charbonnet, but kind of an underrated aspect of their team is their defensive line, and Utah's going to have to really pass block well if they want to have success on offense because UCLA's got some absolute beasts on their defensive line. I want to start out with Laiatu Latu. He's first in the Pac-12 in sacks and fifth in pressures. Washington transfer had a really good week last week in UCLA's win. And they also got two transfers, the Murphy brothers, Gabe and Grayson. Grayson's third in the entire nation in win rate and pressures, and Gabe is top 10 in the Pac-12 in both pressures and win rate. So Utah's offensive line is going to have to really pass block well. Both tackles have been pretty sound so far. Obviously, you got Brandon Daniels on the left, who's been fantastic for a number of years now. And so Tawa Lomea has really picked it up. He kind of struggled making that transition to right tackle early on. But over the last 2 weeks, he's allowed 0 pressure, 0 sacks. So it's good to see him coming along well right at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Brayden Daniels, I've been so high on that guy. I mean, I couldn't believe how good his PFF grades were the past couple of years. I've been so dang high on Brayden Daniels. I've been a little, not like, to be clear, Brayden Daniels is still one of the best tackles in the Pac-12 easily, right? And I'd say probably one of the better tackles in the country. But I had really high expectations, and maybe this is more on me, and maybe this is just an early season situation. He's been more, above average than he has been good to elite. What do you think's going on there? When do you think we'll see? You think this could be a big game for Brayden Daniels?
So for me, the run blocking just in general for the offensive line has been a little lackluster. Like Lamea was really good at run blocking when he was a guard last year. Daniels as well when he was a guard early on in his career, always more of a run blocking guy. So this year it's just kind of confusing to me because obviously they have the talent. Braden and Lamea are both very nasty players. They're kind of undersized for tackles. Usually you got tackles being around 325, 330 pounds. I believe Daniels is around 295 and Lamea is just under 310. So these are guys that really focus on just attention to detail and being fundamentally sound and just overall just being nasty. And low man wins is obviously the big thing for winning in the trenches, and they really embody that. But I do think this could be a big game for them. Like, the left side of the line hasn't given up a sack all year long. I think we've only given up one sack that's actually been credited to the offensive line. I think the other ones have been on like blitzes and whatnot. Wow. So I'm looking forward to see how he does. I think this is like a big statement game for him, obviously, going up against that really good UCLA defensive line. But I think he'll be successful.
Very cool. Let me pull up some Utah numbers right here. So I pulled up on the team rankings website some of the Utah numbers. Boom. Let's take a look. Bam, this should be it. Okay, cool. So some of the Utah numbers. So what I think is really cool about this website is it kind of breaks down everything and tells you what they're doing. I wish it had the rankings next to it. It would make it a little easier. But one thing I think that's been really impressive for this Utah defense, I know we were just touching on offense, but one thing I think has been really impressive for this Utah defense is that opponent red zone scoring is 75% of the time they're stopping their opponents from scoring in the red zone. That is pretty wild. What do you credit that to? And obviously, I think a big thing is, do you think that's something that can be consistent? Do you think we need to address how often they're getting in the red zone, or this is going to become a problem?
In a sense, I was on Locked On the other day, and I pointed out how Oregon State's two biggest plays, I believe, were more like these flukish type plays that you don't see being ran every single drive. The first one, obviously, the touchdown they had on that reverse, and then the other one was a double reverse pass back to the quarterback, which went for another 25 yards. So they were really only being able to get yards off these weirdish plays that aren't being drawn up, drive in and drive out. But in terms of the red zone defense, I think Morgan Scalley's the number one guy to kind of point out. I mean, he's putting guys in the best position to succeed. He's drawing up different types of coverages. I mean, you saw RJ on that interception last week, kind of just lurking there, and the quarterback made a bad read and basically threw it right to him. But RJ did make a tremendous jump on the ball. So I do think that it's maybe a little bit skewed. Like, we'll probably come back down to earth within a few weeks, but I still think they'll be very, very solid.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about RJ Hubert for a second, since you brought him up. I was thoroughly impressed last weekend. I've been a little critical of RJ Hubert. He's been very good in coverage, like very, very good, but his run defense has been quite poor throughout the season. And last game, I don't know, I would love for you to touch on a little bit. I felt like that was a breakout game for him in my eyes. I mean, tons of open field tackles, a bunch of big hits. I was really impressed. What did you think about RJ Hubert last weekend?
Yeah, I was really impressed. Obviously, it's his first year as a starter. Didn't look super good in that Florida game, but last week, I mean, when nobody else was really there to make a play, you knew he was going to come in and just take out the trash, basically. I mean, their offensive line, Oregon State's offensive line, is very good. Like, that's a group that returns 5 starters, was a top 10 PFF graded group in the entire nation last year. So we were getting pushed around a little bit. And when it came to that last line of defense, it was always RJ, really clinical, fundamentally sound tackles. So it's been awesome to see him progress throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really excited. And I know I got a little off topic there, but we were touched on the run blocking for Utah a couple minutes ago. And I just want to go back to that. So do you expect, so for me, I commented on it the other day, like, this is something that takes time, right? Anytime a new offensive line unit is meshing, my only concern is it feels like it's taking a really long time to mesh. I try to reflect on last season, but I do feel, because, you remember last season, the first 3 games, we were kind of all over the place, but I'm getting a little worried because we are, that's 5 games in. We're about to be halfway through the season after this game. And I really hope we see something from our offensive line. What are your thoughts on how the offensive line's looking so far this year in run blocking?
It's just been lackluster. They really picked it up in the second half of the Florida game, which had me excited, because in that Florida game, I think all 4 of the drives we had in the second half went for 69 or more yards, and we were just punishing them in terms of the rushing attack. And then since then, it's just been simply lackluster. I think that's kind of got a lot to do with these slow starts that we've been seeing versus Southern Utah versus San Diego State. And even last week, I mean, obviously the Clark interception helped out a lot, but when it came down to drive in, drive out, there was a little bit of inconsistency still in the first half. These guys are talented. They're very talented. Obviously had that Mokafisi kind of competition early on in the year, which kind of, I think, stalled the overall progression of the line, but they're talented. They're big guys. They're nasty. So I'm kind of just shocked about how long it's take to progress. I think this week, I mean, like I pointed out, those guys on UCLA's defensive line are fantastic pass rushing, not as good at stopping the run. And then next week, obviously, with USC coming to town, they got Tuli Tuipulotu, who is probably the best defensive tackle in the conference, probably the best defensive tackle on the West Coast. So we're going to have to really bring our A game if we're going to want to run the ball against him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a concern. I mean, I think Oregon State maybe has us all a little – overly concerned. I think Oregon State was a really good front 7, really tough, really physical. And so the fact that we were able to do what we did is impressive in itself. And maybe we're overblowing that a little bit as fans. And, I'm excited to see this week. This is not a bad front 7 for UCLA, right? It's a pretty good team, but I do wonder how they're going to match our physicality, our toughness, if we could start to move them around. I'm pretty excited to see that. I actually think running the ball, this should be a great test. How do you think we'll do running the ball against UCLA? Do you think they're a good run defense team? You think we have some room to take advantage of that? What do you think?
So they held Washington to just 2.8 yards per carry last week, but somebody pointed it out. They had a pretty cupcake-ish schedule before that game, and they did, rightfully so. I mean, it was South Alabama, Alabama State, and somebody else, and then Colorado, obviously. So they haven't really played the cream of the crop of the Pac-12.
I don't know if he pointed it out as nicely as you said. I mean, it was a little less nice there.
That's the nice way to put it, though, honestly. I mean, I remember when I was predicting them early on in the year, my final statement was this team will be like 8-4, but they're not going to be as good as their record simply because of how bad their non-conference opponents are. And it's kind of come to fruition up to this point. Obviously, they look good last week against the Washington team that was looking awesome throughout the first few weeks of the season. So I do think we'll be able to push them around a little bit because, like I pointed out, those guys are very good pass rushers. But the Murphy brothers were both at North Texas last year, so they're not playing against an offensive line anywhere near as physical as Utah's. So now I think it could kind of be like a reality check for the Bruins a little bit, because sure, Washington's got a good offensive line, but you got to take into account like a lot of their stats are kind of skewed because of how quickly Michael Penix Jr. gets the ball. I think he averages like 2.4 seconds to throw each snap, which is a ridiculous rate. And a lot of these defensive ends aren't even getting the opportunity to get a hit on him. So I think that the numbers are a bit skewed. And I think we should be able to run the ball against them. But if we don't, like if we can't establish the run early and UCLA's offense is looking good, I think we should definitely abandon it and just go all out air raid, because I was really impressed by the wide receivers last week. The amount of separation they were able to get on those Oregon State DBs, who I view very highly of. I thought Oregon State secondary.
It's probably one of the best DB groups in the country. It's really good. Yeah.
Heading into the season, I thought us and them had the best secondaries in the conference. And I mean, they held USC to only 17 points. And I mean, it could have been 10 if two offensive linemen didn't come up and push Caleb Williams over the marker on that 4th and 6. So I was really impressed by the wide receivers. They've come along extremely nicely. They got a good rapport with Cam. And with how good our pass blocking has been, I think we'll be able to buy him a little bit more time. And UCLA secondary only returns one starter. Sure, the one starter is pretty good. It's Stephen Blaylock, one of their safeties, who's a beast, rightfully so. But I think with how good the pass blocking is, we'll be able to get a lot of separation, and Cam will be able to hit the guys in stride and get some big yards.
Cool. Awesome. And make sure you guys, as you come into the video, please do make sure you guys like the video. Helps get it out to more Utes fans. Also, comment in the chat, guys. This is what makes this fun. I'm excited to answer a bunch of your guys' questions with Dante here. And then also, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. This is a Utah Utes football channel. That's all we talk about all the time. So if you're into that, make sure you guys are, stay tuned in. Lanky Boy says, I really hope Tavion plays well this week. I believe Tavion was announced as the number 1 running back earlier today, which should give us some exciting hopes for what Tavion could do this week. I'm really hoping to see something from him. I think that's another thing. As much as the offensive line hasn't looked great run blocking, I have been a little disappointed in Tavion. There's the personal problems off the field, whatever happened there. But what I'm talking about more than anything is when he's on the field, it felt like last year he was like this train, that he would just run people over and just real mean. And then this year it just feels like every time someone makes contact, he goes down. And maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's not what we saw last year. And I think what you were just touching on is something I'd like to spend a little more time on. So I think we have one of the better run games in the Pac-12, and I think we need to use it. But I also agree with what you were saying there, where it's like Cam Rising is our breaking case of emergency. He is, in my opinion, I mean, it is hard to really put into words how important Cam is for this team. It's if you look at stats, you do whatever you want, the numbers are good. They're not great, but you'll be impressed. There's something about when Cam Rising has the ball, and I'm a guy that has watched a lot of football. It is special to watch. He makes a play, like whatever happens, he is just a dynamic playmaker. And what you were talking about there, where if the run game's not doing well, let's abandon it and let's let him air it out. I agree with what you were saying. The receiving game started to get really well involved with the actual wide receivers last week for the first time. I mean, Devon Vele, we watched his breakout game last week. That was awesome. I mean, think of what we were just talking about, the corners he was playing against and how well he did. That was so cool to see. And if we need to drop back and air it out a little bit, because that could be how this game goes with DTR. If he can get hot and starts lighting up the field, we might have to get into a shootout. But I feel great about getting to a shootout with Cam Rising being the guy holding the gun, right?
Yeah, I do as well. We've scored, I think, 40 plus every game against UCLA since 2016, because that was the Joe Williams game when he had like 350 yards or something crazy like that. And then since then, it's just been a lot of blowouts. But this year, it might be a little bit different. DTR has been around what seems like forever, I think since 2017, but he's only faced Utah once. And that game was a little bit unfair because, he's facing that Utah defense that had the likes of Julian Blackman, Jalen Johnson, et cetera. And I think we beat them 49-3. So I maybe a little bit of revenge factor for him, and they got the playmakers to put up a lot of points. But for us, I think we definitely have what it takes to get into a shootout with them. Like I touched on, our wide receivers look really good, and Coach Wood even said that he felt that Dalton was a little bit underutilized. So if we can get him the ball and spread it out evenly between him, Devon, JD, Money Parks, even guys like that, and Solo didn't play last week, which is in my opinion, kind of one of the more underrated things. Because, I mean, obviously he doesn't get a ton of targets, but he's still on the field. That's still a guy who's on the field for a good majority of Utah snaps that you need to make up for. So I think he'll play this week. So just spread the ball around and take advantage of an inexperienced UCLA secondary.
Awesome. All right. And then Blanky Boy just asked this question. What are your 3 keys to beating UCLA this week? Dante, I'm going to say mine. So I think one of them is establish the run, as much as like if the run doesn't work, abandon it and do your thing. I think establish the run, be effective on our drives. One of the best things about our offense is it does feel like we get down the field well. I'd like to see us score as well on our drives as we did last year, but we do get down the field well. And I don't want to go for it on 4th down every time anymore. I feel like we've had some pretty bad luck with that recently, and I don't mind, taking some field goals. Let's get some points. I think a big key to this game, and I guess this is just a key to football, but when you have a quarterback like DTR that can be so explosive, I think one huge key is get up early and make them have to just press, make him have to throw into tight windows, make him, let us play that bend, don't break, and wait for him to make the mistakes. The second thing is I think it's going to be our DB core. I have a lot of concerns about, Travis Broughton, not talking badly about the guy. There were 4 or 5 plays last week where he let wide receivers run wide open. I'm sure, Dante, you remember that one play where they overthrew him, but he had probably 10 yards of separation. I mean, it wasn't even close. So I really hope he steps up this week, because UCLA, they run with a lot of wide receivers. They spread the field, and they're going to try to pick on your weakest corners. And I really hope that he isn't the one getting picked on. I feel good about Zamaya Vaughn, though. I thought he looked great last week. I thought he's looked really good every time I've seen him all season. So if we have to go 3 corners, 4 corners out there, I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. And then the final key to victory is going to be a huge game from Cam Rising. I think you go back there, you start slinging it out, which I think this is going to be a given. I think we are going to see a big game from Cam Rising. I don't think I have actually predicted this yet. I think we're going to see a 300-yard game from Cam Rising. I haven't said that once all year. I think this is the game. It's gonna be high scoring, and I think making sure that Cam Rising throws the ball really well and gets the receivers involved that's the third key for me.
Yeah, on to mine. Number 1 is pass block well. Like I said, I touched on how great those UCLA defensive ends are. Utah's tackles are going to have to bring their A game. Just don't let them get in Cam's face. Buy the receivers more time to get separation. That's number 1 for me. Number 2 is just stop Jake Bobo. This guy had, I think, 142 yards last week against Washington. He's been a starter for a long time now. He was at Duke for a few seasons before. Now he's at UCLA and doing great things. He's 6'5", can run any route in the book, experienced player. And like I said, he's 6'5", so he's got a big height advantage on Clark Phillips. Obviously, we love Clark Phillips. He could run with any receiver in the nation. But when it comes to high tracking the ball, I mean, it's just kind of unfair for Clark going up against a guy who's almost a whole foot taller than him. So I think what I'd like to see is maybe shadow RJ Hubert on his side of the field, double team him a little bit, because outside of him, the only other guy who has over 20 targets on UCLA is their slot receiver. And even him, I think he's only averaging around 7 yards per catch. So he's not playing a huge factor in gaining yards. It's really just Jake Bobo. And we saw how good UCLA's offense looked in general when he was on last week. So stopping him is going to be a huge factor. He's averaging 2.52 yards per out run. He's catching 84% of his targets. He's used in both the slot and out wide. 7 yards after the catch per catch, 66% contested catch rate. Pretty ridiculous. Oh, and not to mention, quarterbacks have a perfect passer rating when targeting him. I don't know if there's another receiver in the entire nation that has that going for him, but Jake Bobo, quarterbacks have a 158.3 passer rating when targeting him, which is simply ridiculous. So I'd like to see Clark man-to-man on him with a little bit of RJ shadowing, because they spread the ball around a good amount, but they don't have anyone with that game-breaking ability in their receiving corpus like
Are you saying Bobo?
Yeah.
Clark one-on-one with Bobo?
Yeah, I'd like to see him on that side of the field, and then RJ kind of shadowing and helping out on those deeper routes. And then the other one, it's win the third down battle. Last week we saw Oregon State had more total yards than Utah, but they only converted 3 of 10 third downs. They were bad on third down, whereas Utah was, I'm not sure what the exact stat is, but much better. I know Cam Rising on 12 of his 29 dropbacks, it ended in a Utah first down. So we were converting first downs at a very high clip. on every down, basically, and Oregon State failed to do that. And that's how, in my opinion, they went down by such a big margin, not being able to convert on third down. If we're able to bring the house a little bit, get some pressure on DTR, get a couple of sacks, that would be really big for us. I think if we convert more third downs than they do, we win this game.
Absolutely. Baseball Bat Bros just dropped a little comment here. Thanks for joining us today, man. For the first time ever, it seems like we're more effective throwing the ball than running the ball. I think we have a new offensive identity. Thoughts? Excuse me. Sorry, I just had some chicken parm before this, so sorry.
I got you. Yeah.
So I'll touch on it real quick, and then I'll let you go, Dante. So, with the passing the ball being our new identity, I think if what we saw last week, where Cam really got a lot of different receivers involved, I think as sad as it is that Brent Keithy's down, it could be one of the greatest things that ever happened to this offense. I know that sounds weird, but it's putting Cam in a situation where he can't just throw to his tight ends all day. He has to look around the field. He has to find someone open. And if Vele can put up, 60, 70 yards a game consistently, Money Parks can get involved, Jalen Dixon can get involved, this could be one of the most dangerous, explosive offenses Utah's ever had. I really liked what we saw last week. Go for it, Dante.
Yeah, so I actually talked to Money yesterday, and I didn't even have to ask him a question. He literally just blurted it out, and he said, we knew we had to step up with Brent going down. So that was really encouraging to me. I mean, they have this sense of urgency that they need to play at their highest level. I would like to see Utah run the ball well, personally, just like as long as I've been alive. It was always run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So I don't want to abandon that. Truly, I still think we should try to get the run game going, because that's what you need to be an elite college football team. You need to be well-rounded. That's why you see Georgia, Alabama doing so well. I mean, they got guys at every position who can make a play. And I think it limits this Utah offense if we're solely relying on the passing attack, as great as it is. And I think we could have success within the conference. But if we want to set our aspirations greater than that, we're going to have to be much more well-rounded. And it starts with guys like Tavion, Mekhi Bernard, just being better running the ball, and as well as the offensive line, because we touched on it earlier. They haven't been too great in terms of run blocking this season. But at the end of the day, I would like to see us establish the run and kind of bring it kind of how we were doing it last year. Because last year, I mean, Cam's QBR was still really high. It's really high this year. It was really high last year. I would like to see us run the ball, establish the run, use that to open up the passing attack, because we got guys who can win at all three levels. Jalen Dixon's a great deep threat. We saw Devon make some plays in the open space while also dragging two defenders into the end zone. So we just need to keep the offense balanced and keep spreading the ball around and keep defenses on their heels.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dixon and Money Parks, I was saying it the first 4 games, man, I would love to see them get more involved. Those two are they're grading out really well on PFF every week, and they're looking really good with the eye test, right? I think the only bad play I could think of, and it was Money Parks out of the two of them, it was one really high pass from Cam Rising. I don't know if you remember that one. I forget which game it was. It was way up high. He had to reach up for it, and he drops it, but I don't think you always expect the guys to catch those ones. But yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, let's not, we're not going to turn into an air raid overnight. Let's run the ball, but let's be, if the pass game is working, we, in my opinion, have one of the better pass games in the country. I don't know if I'd say top 10, but I think it has that type of potential if we invest in it, right? But we have to be willing to take that risk, because it feels like sometimes you watch the game and you feel like Cam won us the game, but you look at the stat line, you're like 220 yards. How did he just win us the game and get 220 yards? But yeah, I think he's going to be, an awesome quarterback. I think it'll be a lot of fun. This is going to be a huge gauntlet for Utah. We have UCLA and then USC and then Washington State right after that. But I think these two teams to me are a little more intense than than Washington State. This 2-game and 3-game stretch is really going to be what tells you what we're capable of this year, especially if we can beat USC. I mean, do you think so my thoughts are, if we beat UCLA, which I think we will, it's going to be tough, but I think we'll win. And then we go play USC. I think USC wins this week as well. Where do you think we're ranked if we beat USC? Where do you think we are after that little stretch there?
First things first, we got to hope Tennessee loses this weekend. That's the number one thing. They got to go on the road to face LSU, who's been red hot. So we got to hope Tennessee loses, because if they lose, they'll drop below us. I mean, we've been the highest rated one-loss team all season long. So as long as these teams ahead of us keep falling, I think we got some good things going for us. I don't think we'll jump one of those undefeated teams, though. I think one of them is going to have to lose a game and then eventually fall below us. And I think Tennessee's really the only one that I looked at that I think has a legit shot at losing. So my prediction, if we were to win this week, would be 10. In order to get any higher than that, I think we'd have to win by a very wide margin, like beat UCLA like we have in years prior. But I think 10 is the sweet spot. And then for USC, they'll probably hang around right where they are because those top 5 don't seem to be showing any signs of depleting yet, except for Georgia last week, which I think was kind of a fluke. But the teams ahead of USC will probably keep winning. And then I think the only one that really has a chance of losing this weekend is Tennessee. So we hope they lose, jump a spot to 10, and then it'll be 10 versus 6 or possibly 10 versus 5 if USC really puts a beating on the Cougars this weekend.
Yeah, good point. And then just to bring it back up one more time, guys, if you saw earlier the Brent Keithy autograph card, if you guys are interested in winning that card, make sure you guys like the video. But also, what you're going to do is you're going to go to @UtahUtesBalling on Twitter. Let me put it up on the screen one more time. We're getting a ton of likes and retweets right now. I'm getting a ton of notifications of likes and retweets. Let me pull it up here. But you guys have to comment best tight end in the country. If you guys want to win the card and win the giveaway, it's a signed Brent Keithy card. You have to comment best tight end in the country, like the post, and retweet it. If you follow me on Twitter, it's just a bonus. There's also one going on Instagram @UtahUtesBalling. Just like the post, and then comment best tight end in the country. If you follow on Twitter, another bonus there. And I know we had a few other things to discuss tonight. Let's see here. Let me pull it up. Okay, so I know you mentioned a lot of guys for UCLA. Can you talk a little more about Dorian Thompson-Robinson? I feel like let's go into him and Zach Charbonnet. I feel like they're the two real guys. Like if you want to look at their superstars, can you tell us a little bit about them? Are they overrated, underrated? What do you think?
So, DTR is a tough one because as a passer, I think he is overrated, but his versatility and just the dynamic skill set he brings to the table is it just can't go unnoticed. He made Washington look like absolute fools last week. He had 2 SportsCenter top 10 plays who honestly both probably could have gotten number 1. The one when he stopped on a dime, made 2 guys crash into each other. Then the other one where he probably one of the best hurdles I've ever seen. So his rushing ability is up there with the best quarterbacks in the nation. And he's gotten better at making decisions over the course of his career. In his first season at UCLA, he was very trigger happy, which led to a lot of turnovers. Since then, he's just gotten better and better at that as experienced quarterbacks do. But the thing I want to point out about DTR is his average air yards per attempt is still under 6 yards. So he's not a guy who's going to be chucking it and airing it out a ton. It's going to be a lot of screen passes, a lot of slants and stuff like that, a lot of drag routes over the middle. And UCLA gets more yards after the catch than anyone in the nation, or in the conference at least. I'm not sure about the nation, but they get a lot of yards after the catch. That's the main point. And DTR's stats have been a little bit skewed because, like I said, he's only averaging 5.5 air yards per attempt, whereas Cam Rising's averaging 9, Michael Penix Jr. is averaging 10. So their offense is very simplified. So as a passer, I think DTR is a tad bit overrated, but his rushing ability just can't be unnoticed, and it has to be a focal point for Utah this weekend. And then Zach Charbonnet. So funny story about him. He actually broke this guy I know's arm in high school. He was on the kid I know was on a kick return team against him in high school, and Charbonnet returned the punt and trucked him and broke his ribs. So that just goes to show you how much power this guy has, and he's fantastic. He's going to be an NFL player. He's got that skill set. He's got that size and that run you over mentality, which I thought we were going to see from Tavion this year. Honestly, I think those two running backs, when they're on their A game, are neck and neck for 1 and 2 in the conference because they both have solid speed for their size, and they're both just trucks. If it's 1-on-1, odds are your head is going to be whiplash back onto the ground, and Charbonnet is going to be running for 50 more yards and a touchdown. Going into last week, though, on runs up the middle, so in between the guards and the center, Charbonnet was averaging 9 yards per attempt. I'm not sure how that number has fluctuated since last week, but he had another really good game, so I'm going to assume that it probably stayed around the same. But 9 yards per attempt when you're running up the middle in between the guards is just fantastic. So Utah's defensive tackles are really going to have to bring their A game to stop him. And then I think Lander Barton's going to be a big key because, honestly, I think he's our fastest linebacker. Mo Diabate has been a little inconsistent. Obviously, wasn't super great in the Florida game. He had some really good moments last week, but in general, he's just been a tad bit inconsistent. And then Karene is more of like a coverage guy. I think he has the lowest passer rating when targeted out of any Pac-12 linebacker. And I think Lander's our speed guy for the linebacker position. So in order to contain DTR, he's going to play a big factor. And obviously the linebackers and defensive tackles are going to be huge when trying to stop Zach Charbonnet.
That's awesome. I love your insights, man. This is awesome to talk to you. Yeah, so with me, I kind of honestly, so with DTR, I agree his rushing ability is very, very impressive. And I would have said, Bobby says Diabetes did have 4 TFLs in last game.
He did. That shouldn't go unnoticed because he had.
I think his name's Diabetes.
Plays. Yeah. We know what he means, but he did have some awesome plays. Like 4 TFLs should not go unnoticed, but he did have some other plays where he was overrunning at the line of scrimmage, and Oregon State got some good runs out of it. So like I said, it's just inconsistency. Like when this guy's on his A game, he's a vital player for us. He almost had 100 tackles last year at Florida, and he was a very good pass rusher for the Gators as well. So with more experience, I think he'll get better and better. But I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from him.
Cool. Yeah. And if you follow the channel at all, you guys probably know that if anyone is critical of Diabate, it is me. It is not that I don't hope he does well. I hope he, I hope he does really well. I've had my concerns. I had my questions. The PFF grades every year before this did not look well, even with the really high tackle rates. So I actually thought, like I said, if anyone's been critical of him, it's me. I actually thought last week I didn't see a lot of terrible play, and I did see a few nice plays from him. So I feel like that's promising heading into this week, but I do want to see it week in, week out. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, the talent's there for him. He was a former top 100 recruit, and the PFF grades in terms of run defending were very good. But if you look at like the pass rushing grades from last year, I think he was top 20 out of linebackers in win rate and pressure rate and things like that. So I think we got to just use him the right way. When him and Gabe Reed came in, like my first thoughts were, okay, these are going to be the guys to kind of replicate Mika Tafua. Like those two together, I thought could kind of replicate the pass rushing ability that Mika brought to the table. Gabe Reed's been tremendous thus far. I had him over Van Fillinger actually in my Pac-12 all first team. So I'm really stoked to see him doing well. And that was like a bold take. And I think it's kind of coming to fruition because he's just gotten better and better every week. But Diabate, I think is going to be kind of similar, just with more experience. It's just going to keep going uphill.
Yeah, that's how I felt Gabe Reed too. I was way more excited about Gabe Reed than I was about Diabate. I was like, this guy has really good PFF grades year after year after year. He seems like a good player, good stats. So I was really excited about Gabe Reed. To be fair, I didn't think Gabe Reed would be having the type of impact he's having right now. I thought, funny enough, where Diabate did well last week, I thought I saw a few plays where I was not happy with what Gabe Reed did last week, and could have just been an off game or just a few plays I noticed he may have been a little off. But let's transition back to talking about the stars on UCLA. So DTR, I agree that I thought his rushing was going to be such a big weapon, and I was like worried about that, but I felt like his arm was probably overrated. But I have been watching him a little this year, and I feel like I'm starting to believe that less and less with the overrated arm. Some of the throws he's making are really nice throws, and CJ Stroud's one of the best in the country, but some of the throws he makes are CJ Stroud, esque. Like they're nice tight spirals, 35 yards, right on the money. And I worry about that a little bit with him. So I really hope we can limit him as a passer, make him work for those. It feels like he likes to throw it, 10 plus yards to those big receivers like a Jake Bobo. And I don't have any stats to back that one up, but that's just my vibe I got when watching the game. I think if we can make him work for the underneath stuff, that's where he'll make mistakes. I expect him to have a pretty big game. Where I'm worried is Zach Charbonnet, because I think it's a given DTR is going to have a decent game. Like I don't think he's going to do terrible. He'll either do it with his arm or he'll do it with his feet. But we're going to see him make plays. It's at some points in the game. My nightmare is Zach Charbonnet having a good game, because I think that means we're going to have a bad game. I think if that's the recipe for us to lose this game, is if he's doing 125, 150 rushing yards, because, that's not going to be fun to watch. I can picture it in my head. I don't like it, but I can picture these huge holes opening up, between Fillinger and Junior Trifuna. He runs over Diabate and goes for 20 yards. I mean, it's not something I like to see, but I do see that being a possibility. I really hope all week in practice we are talking about, watching read options, not letting DTR get to the outside. And then number one, do not let Charbonnet tear you guys apart, because if he does, DTR is going to have an even bigger day. Lanky Boy says, do you think this will be a close game? Thoughts on that, Dante?
My score prediction is 38-30 in favor of the good guys, but it definitely could be closer. I mean, the spread opened up at 3. Now it's already jumped up to 4.5 in favor of us. So Vegas thinks it'll be close. I think with our success over UCLA in the past, Kyle kind of has Chip Kelly figured out. And with that being said, I think Utah's going to be able to move the ball at will, whereas UCLA might have a couple of errant throws from DTR that result into turnovers like we saw last week and things like that, where Utah's defense, the playmakers, kind of just step up at the right time on third down, on fourth and short, situations like that. And towards the end of the game, I think Utah kind of just pulls away. That was kind of what I said about last week too. I said last week I wouldn't be shocked to see Oregon State keep it close, but I think Utah will kind of just blow it out of the water in the second half. I don't think this week will necessarily be blow it out of the water, but I think Utah will just be so much more consistent on offense than UCLA that they'll control the clock and win the game kind of not easily. Like UCLA is always going to be lingering around, but I wouldn't be shocked if Utah held the lead for like 40 minutes during this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a pretty similar score. I'm thinking 35-28. I haven't said my official prediction, but I'll say it there. That's kind of what I'm feeling. I feel like we're not like a super high flying offense. I think we can put up points and we can put up points high. And I think that score might sound closer than the game actually is. I think we could get up pretty decently, like 28-14. And then we just start pounding that rock and eating that clock. And then eventually they get a couple garbage time touchdowns. So that's kind of how I see it. About 7 points for me as well. Utah handles UCLA like we do every year. One thing that scares me about that, I'm glad you bring that up, Bobby, is who was that kid that played when we played UCLA last year? It was the backup, number 4 or something.
His brother was the Cal quarterback. Ethan, I think the brother was Chase. He's Ethan Garbers.
Yep, Ethan Garbers. And don't forget, guys, we didn't play DTR last year. We played Ethan Garbers. So we don't know exactly how this defense without Devin Lloyd, mind you, is going to do against this team. So we'll have to see there. Well, Bubba, so we need to pay some of those two and contain DTR. Yep, I'm with you. And with that, guys, Dante, you want to tell them where to find you, man?
Yeah, so Twitter, just my handle at Dante Guardi, just my name, DanteGuardi. Would highly appreciate a follow from any of you guys. And utezone.com. All my articles are free. I'm not doing any VIP stuff. So if you want to hear my input on how certain Pac-12 quarterbacks are doing, my 3 keys to win, which I drop every single week, just things like that, my initial reactions to more Utah football related things, as well as basketball. With that coming up, I'll be touching on that a little bit as well. So I appreciate you for throwing up my Abby, and I'll leave it at that. Appreciate everyone for tuning in.
Hey, thanks so much, Dante. I'm going to drop you off. But hey, man, anytime you are interested in coming on, you are more than welcome. It's been a fun conversation. I hope you have a great one.
No doubt. You as well. Appreciate it a ton.
All right, guys. And thanks so much to Dante again for coming on the show. You can see his handle there at Dante Guardi. Make sure you guys give him a follow. That was awesome. I like to talk to other people that really dive into the analytics, because it does take a lot of work, and it's nice to hear other people's, thoughts on the matchups. I'm going to drop the little plug one more time. We're doing a giveaway for a Brant Keithy signed card. Okay, guys, you can win a Brant Keithy signed card completely free. All you have to do is you go on the Twitter for the Utah Utes Ballin'. Boom. All right here at Utah Utes Ballin'. It's this post right here. This is Brant Keithy. We're getting a ton of likes, a ton of retweets. What you have to do, you got to like the post, you got to retweet it, and you got to comment best tight end in the country. You can see it right there. Chandler is in first place for the competition because he's the only one that has done it right so far. So make sure you guys actually comment best tight end in the country, or you won't qualify for the giveaway. The other thing, guys, it's also on Instagram. It's the same tag at Utah Utes Balling. Same sort of deal. You can't retweet on Instagram, but just like the post and make sure you comment best tight end in the country. Outside of that, guys, I'm about to get out of here. Please do like the video. Comment down below what you guys think we're going to do against UCLA. Larry says he's too old for Twitter. Larry, age is just a number. Come on, man. You know how many Utah Utes fans are out there having a good time on Twitter? You're missing out. Honestly, Utah Utes Twitter is pretty damn fun. You're missing out. Bobby says it's going to be a huge game for Cole Bishop because of the read options. Yeah, I expect one. Every time Cole Bishop hits anybody, they throw a damn flag. So I'm expecting a couple Cole Bishop flags before the game's over. But outside of that, guys, like the video, comment below what you guys think about the UCLA game. What do you think the score is going to be? Who do you think is going to go off? And make sure, if you haven't already, a ton of you guys that watch these videos do not subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, guys. We don't talk basketball. We don't talk baseball. We talk Utah, Utes, football, and that's about it, people. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Make sure you guys go try to win that Brant Keithy card. I'm out. Have a good night, and the video breakdown will be coming soon. See you guys.